I hope your day is full of sundaes and ice cream and whipped cream and a cherry on top and sprinkles. Gotta have sprinkles. Some people are rainbow sprinkles people, other people are chocolate sprinkles people. I think that on the East Coast, people refer to sprinkles as something other than sprinkles. I know because I one time dated a man who kept calling them something else. And I was like, this is just not gonna work. They're sprinkles, bro. Um, Let me see. What is the original name for Jimmy's? You called them Jimmy's. If you call your sprinkles Jimmy's, it's not gonna work between us, okay? People on the East Coast coming in with the word Jimmy's is like, no, Jimmy is a dude that drinks Budweiser. Jimmy is not the name of the little fleck of sugar that's on my ice cream, okay? We're starting hot. Yes, we are. I hope your day is full of what else? What other things do you put on ice cream? Hot fudge, caramel, or is it caramel? Is it caramel or is it caramel? People, we just don't know, you know? Like people say different words different ways. It's a new year, same me. I'm back on my bullshit. I'm in my pajamas. Guys, this week's episode is a solo pod with yours truly. I figured I would check in with you guys since it's a new year, cover a few different things that have been going on in my life, answer some of your questions, and start this year with a bang. Guys, I don't know about you, but one thing that really excites me about uh, putting on my shoes is first putting on my socks. That's right. I try to be as enthusiastic as possible when I'm getting dressed. And you want to know what helps make me more enthusiastic while getting dressed? Oh, yeah, socks. Oh, yeah. Look down at your feet right now. Are they bare? Are they exposed? You deserve the ultimate luxury. You deserve a pair of Oh Yeah socks. Head to ohyeah.com. That's three O's, HYEAH.com to choose from a wide range of sock designs. Some of my current favorite sock designs include the sweet potato fries selection. They're fun. Who doesn't want sweet potato fries on their socks? They also right now they have slippers. They have really fun rainbow llama slippers. They got socks for every holiday. They have Bob Ross socks. They have whatever you're into. There's definitely a sock for you. There's men's socks, women's socks. If you're a human that wears shoes, buy a pair of socks, support the podcast. It's an easy way to show your support for the show and support the people that support the show. Head to ohyeah.com. That's three O's, HYEAH.com. Enter discount code Sarah10. And this week's episode of Shank is also presented to you by Punch Edibles. Are you someone who is still smoking weed while there's a respiratory pandemic? Stop. Get a very, very delicious infused chocolate bar from Punch Edibles. Punch Edibles are available in most dispensaries in California. You can follow them, Punch Edibles, on Instagram. You can check out their website. And again, support the people that support the show. Okay, I got show dates coming up. That's right, I got show dates coming up. I'm going to pull up the calendar right now. We're going to go through where I will be performing. I will be in Humboldt next weekend. Not this weekend, but the following. So from the 14th through the 15th, I'm headlining 2 gigs there, and that's going to be a really fun time if you're in the NorCal area. Also, I will be at West Side Comedy Theater in Los Angeles on January 19th. I'm doing a show there at 9 p.m. Come out, support live comedy. We need the live audience, pandemic or not. The show must go on, honey. Okay, guys, let's get into some of this week's subjects, things I want to talk about. Someone wanted my opinions on Kenny G, and I have nothing but love for Kenny G because how could you not love Kenny G? Who's mad at a curly-haired man that plays the sax? I mean, not me. Isn't that Kenny G? Let's take a look at him. First of all, there's something about him that's almost Muppet-like. Like, who else has curls like this? Who else is this much of an icon. Kenny G has a phenomenal head of hair. Kenny G should be the spokesperson for Keeps. What is happening? Wait, what? Okay, somebody Googled this and then I got distracted and it went on a side fucking tangent. Is Kenny G related to Katy Perry? Kenny G is not related to Katy Perry. What? Why is this something that is Googled a bunch? Okay, is Kenny G married? I think Kenny G got divorced in 2012. So if you're looking for a curly-haired king, Kenny G could be your opportunity. Kenny G is your chance to start 2022 with a man who can rock a full ponytail. Ooh, there's gonna be a Kenny G documentary. He's 65 years old. He's a sax player. Okay. The best-selling instrumentalist of all time. Guys, who doesn't like Kenny G? I mean, I love Kenny G. Anyone who doesn't love Kenny G really just doesn't like themselves, is what I'm getting. Let's see if there's some of Kenny G's hits. Hi, I'm Sara Weinshenk, and this has become the Kenny G podcast. Are you someone who likes to unwind with the sound of I almost called it a flute, and it's definitely a sax. Try Kenny G. Dude, do you think Kenny G plays the sax right before he has sex? Because he has a thing called what is it called? Safe sax. I feel like Kenny G's in on it. Like, he knows he's a sax icon. The question is, would Kenny G be good in bed? What? Okay, in the early 1980s, Kenny G invested some of his music royalties in an up-and-coming coffee startup called Starbucks. Guys, I'm deep in the Kenny G culture. Okay, he's got a website, kennygg.com. What I learned from playing golf with Kenny G. I mean, Kenny G seems to have a cult following. So shout out to the person who sent this Kenny G question. I think Kenny G is clearly an icon. And you should ask your doctor if Kenny G is right for you. Are you someone who's feeling low? Are you someone who's feeling down? Are you someone who hasn't heard a few chords of a saxophone recently? Try Kenny G. The rest of my ads are just Kenny G ads. This is like a Spawn Con by Kenny G. I just really wanted an excuse to say Spawn Con. I think I covered this in a previous episode with Ian Edwards, but my neighbor, bless her soul, her name is, we won't say her name just in case. She has been trying to get me to join a chanting Zoom, so much so that every few days she reminds me that I can just log on to Zoom and chant with her, and it's like a Tibetan Buddhist chant. The problem is I still have to see this woman because she lives down the street from me. So when I don't write back to her chanting Zoom texts, she's soliciting me to join a meditation Zoom. That feels cult-like, feels like it should be outlawed, feels like almost illegal. And it probably would be if I didn't just give her my number directly and say, yeah, sure, send me the info. You know, I didn't know what to say. What do you say when your neighbor casually invites you to join her chanting cult? You don't say no because you live next to them. You say, yeah, let me think about it. But then I gave her hope. So now every few days I got homegirl texting me, asking me whether or not I'm coming to Zoom chanting. And it's like, enough's enough, bitch. I haven't come any of the times that you've asked me to do Zoom chanting. Have you noticed I have not responded? So won't be Zoom chanting. Okay, this is a question I have. So if there's evil voodoo dolls, like voodoo dolls where you stab them with the intention of hurting the individual who is the doll. Can you do the opposite? Can there be pleasure voodoo dolls? Like if I was on vacation, say I was out of town on tour, is there a voodoo doll that my boyfriend could eat out and then I would be able to feel it in, say, Tempe? I'm saying if I go to Tempe and I get a pleasure voodoo doll, what if people just started giving out pleasure voodoo dolls? All of a sudden, you just start orgasming in the middle of nowhere. You're like, oh, someone must have hit my pleasure voodoo doll. Is this a weird premise? I don't know. I wrote down pleasure voodoo dolls, and now I'm like, this. I don't know what I was going for here. This is the creative process, guys. It's a little bit messy. Speaking of messy, someone asked me, would I rather shit come or come shit? Okay, first of all, I would never want to come shit. Do you know how fucked that would be? Do you know how fucked it would be to go from being at like the highest state of pleasure to then experiencing shit everywhere? Like, if you came shit, you would have to let your partner know. You can't just spring that on them. And then they would never make you want to come because they'd be like, ugh, God, I gotta lay down towels. I gotta get a diaper. I gotta get a fucking hose. I gotta get a mister. I gotta get Clorox wipes. It's too much. But then shitting cum, first of all, I'm fine never shitting shit again. If I could shit cum, I think that'd be fine. I would shit cum, and then you wouldn't really even need a guy to get pregnant because you'd be making your own cum. Right? Would it be, or would it be man cum? Why would I think it would be man cum? Would it be woman cum? There's so many questions, but I think I'd rather shit cum than cum shit. Wow. The solo podcasts are good because I get to answer these types of questions, you know? It's very humbling. What does this say? Oh yeah, I went to the gyno last week. Going to the gyno is so jarring. I hadn't gone in like over a year and a half because of COVID. So, I mean, by the time I get to my gyno's office, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It's literally an obstacle course. To get from the parking structure to the doctor's actual office, I'm crossing bridges, I'm taking elevators, I'm walking stairs, okay? I'm committed to my vagina health, to this pussy's health. I'm going up to the 8th floor. I'm getting out. I'm signing in. I'm pulling out insurance cards. I just don't understand why. I don't understand. Everything is so involved, especially a gyno appointment. There is nothing more degrading than walking through the hallway of your gynecologist appointment with a cup of your own piss, like a lost mentally ill person. You're like, where should I put this specimen? It's your dehydrated piss. And now everyone in the hallway and all the nurses can see that you haven't been drinking enough water because it's in a cup with your name on it. And then when I put the pee cup down to the other urine next to the other urine samples, because there's like a tray of pee samples, I realize I'm not as dehydrated as I thought I was. There are some way more yellow urine samples there. Guys, did you want to know about the urine samples inside my doctor's office? Because that's what this solo podcast is about. It's about talking about things that I wouldn't normally talk about. That deep sigh. When you're 15 minutes into a podcast and you're doing a deep sigh, you know that it's going to be a good episode. I went to downtown LA. Okay, downtown LA makes no sense. You literally go from warehouses where people look like they're like shooting up heroin to strip clubs to $8 cups of coffee. I like walk through what looks like Gotham City. It's raining. It's gross out. I'm walking over the homeless. to buy a $7 cup of coffee and across the street is a strip club. It's what is society? What is happening? It's either like, oh, you can sell your body so you can afford an $8 cup of coffee in downtown Los Angeles. That's the only way you're able to afford those coffees. I bet most of the people who are buying those coffees are strippers because they're making nothing but pure cash. Yes. So it was weird because it's not the ambiance you would associate with paying $8 for a cup of coffee with. Like, oh, I just paid $8 for this cup of coffee, and now I'm walking over this homeless man to get into my car. And that is the Arts District in downtown LA, baby. That's how they do. I got my tattoo lasered. I'm going to be covering it, and I'll tell you this. The laser hurt like a fucking bitch. People don't talk about it because people act like all the choices they make on their body they're happy with. But listen, all I gotta say is don't go to Skankfest and leave with a tattoo because it will follow you. It doesn't just go away. After you're no longer fucked up, the tattoo will still be there. This seems like something I should have learned earlier, before the age of 34, but things happen when they happen. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to cover it up with. I am not against the 818. I just don't like the aesthetic of this specific 818, and so I think I'm going to do a cover up. So any suggestions for what I should put on my wrist? I have 2 other teapots. One is tattoos, not teapots. That'd be weird if I switched from talking about tattoos to teapots. But I do have 1 teapot tattoo and 1 bow tattoo. And they're very basic. I pick them off of like a board on a whim. So I'm trying to be more intentional with this wrist tattoo. So, yeah. Oh, okay. So my gynecologist, and now I know I'm going from tattoos to gyno, just catch up. That's what solo podcasts are about. Just loose conversation with you guys. Okay. So when I went to the gynecologist, this man tries to make it more normal. And yes, I have a male gynecologist, which I don't know why people are tripping about it. I tweeted that I had a man gynecologist. Someone was like, male? It's like, yeah, doctors, we need men and women doctors. I don't think it's that crazy to have a male gynecologist. Plus he's completely normal. He's more normal than like some of the women gynecologists I've seen out there, honey. Okay, so but so when he's giving me my pap smear, this man will go from talking about he talks to me about his family vacations. While my gynecologist is giving me a pelvic exam, he's talking to me about his recent trip to the Galapagos. He's talking to me about the island that Darwin studied turtles on, guys, to distract me. And it's hard to pay attention when someone's just prying in your puss. And you can just see the top of their head and they're talking to you about the turtle size in the Galapagos. I mean, being a woman is wild. I feel like not enough people talk about the gyno experience, and it's horrific, and it's necessary. It's how you can make sure you're in good health. Guys, self-care. We got to go to the doctors. If you haven't gone to the doctor or the dentist or any of this since the start of the pandemic, I mean, I would mask up and fucking do it because it's good to take care of your health. What if all of a sudden I just started making this a health podcast? Like, let me tell you about health. I'd like to shit come, not come shit. Okay, middle names. Why do we still fucking have middle names? It seems redundant. You get a name and then you get a middle name. It's like one name is enough. The people who incorporate their middle names into their name are off. I knew a Mary Jo. Off. I think her name was just Mary and Joe. I think that's a weird move. Like, if you have if you just name your kid your name and your husband's name, that's a weird choice. People do that. They're like, oh, I gotta name my daughter after my dead such and such. It's like, just let that person go, honey. This is a new person, you know? I also don't like when people aren't original with names. It's like, we don't need a second. We don't need a third. One is good. Like, I would never be like, and this is Sara Weinshenk the second. It is the halfway point of the podcast, which means one thing and one thing only. I'm about to tell you about my favorite edible right now, and that's Punch Edibles. Guys, if you're someone who's looking for the ultimate edible experience, I cannot recommend Punch more. They have amazing infused malt balls. They come in all different flavors, from strawberry to peanut butter to cookies and cream. There's definitely a Punch edible for you. If you're someone who prefers fruit snacks, they got gummy snacks. They have it all. I personally love the fruit snacks. The texture of them is amazing. It's like the classic gummy that you grew up with, that fruit snack. It's a great texture. I can't recommend them enough. Plus, they're infused with THC. If you're someone who's trying to smoke less because of the pandemic, then look into Punch Edibles. They're at most dispensaries in California and where weed is legal. And it's a great way to support the show. So look out for them in dispensaries near you. And let's get back to this week's episode of Shank with me, Sara Weinshenk. And this is Sara Weinshenk the second. That would be insane. But men do it all the time. Do you think I should have a Sara Weinshenk Jr. and then I become Sara Weinshenk Sr.? That just seems mentally off to me. It seems like you're just making your life harder because now you have to constantly differentiate. I just wanted to say differentiate between you and your successor. Is that what they would be called? Successor? I don't know. Someone asked me what my biggest accomplishment of last year was, and I would say survival, baby. No, I mean just continuing to do stand up and being able to support myself through the podcast and starting my new podcast with Kim Congdon. If you haven't checked that out, that's called This Bitch. It is on YouTube, it is on Spotify, it is on iTunes, it is everywhere where podcasts are, and it's such a fun show. Anyone who's been following Kim and I for a while knows that we've been friends since the beginning of Kill Tony, and we were both regulars on Kill Tony. So this is just a chance for us to hang out, talk shit, and every episode is fun, and every episode is wild as hell because we don't really hold back, especially when we're together. So that podcast drops every Monday. Make sure to check that out. And this podcast drops every Wednesday. So make sure you're subscribing, rating, and reviewing. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast on iTunes, please do so. If you haven't reviewed the show, please do so as well. It just takes a second and makes such a big difference to me. I would so appreciate it. Okay, let's get back to some of these questions. When did you do your first stand-up performance? Okay, the first time I ever did stand-up, I was actually in an acting class in 2010. That was the first time I ever did stand-up. And the acting teacher gave everyone in the acting class assignments, and he thought that I was funny. So he had everyone write monologues, but he had me write a stand-up set. So I wrote my first stand-up set before I even started comedy. And so I had the writing down, and then I got asked to do a bringer show like a few months later at the Comedy Store, where I had to bring all my friends, and I bombed. And then I just got in at the Comedy Store and basically started doing stand-up ever since. And fast forward to now, 2021, 11 years. Oh, 2022, bitch. 12 years. Been doing it 12 years. I just took a very deep sip of my Diet Coke. Like, as I swallowed it, I was like, is this ASMR? Are people gonna pay me to drink Diet Cokes in their ears? Because I could be into that lifestyle. Okay, we answered that. We talked about that. Let's see what else you guys want to know. Oh yeah, I had to go pick up Prozac in my elf costume. This was right around Halloween, though. I don't know if I told you guys about that. But yeah, just your average whimsical elf picking up a little bit of Prozac. What more? What more could you want? What more could you want to see on a Tuesday at your local CVS? Um, I've said this once and I said this, I'll say it again. I think I look better as an elf than I do as a regular girl. So that's something I've been silently dealing with for months. Um, do you have a pedicure? I always have a pedicure. I don't know if I'm feeding the foot fetishes. How big is your ass? That's a question I was asked. Should I measure my ass and then be like, it's approximately 2 by 3. Do you plan on watching any other movies you consider only nerds watched? Well, okay, because Lord of the Rings is nerdy. I don't know. I mean, I'm open. I like to keep an open mind about the content that I consume. I don't even really like that I just called it content. I meant movies and films. If I say films, that's fancy, but if I say content, that's trashy. So somewhere in the middle. What else? What other questions? I don't know. I am into the fantasy genre for sure, more than I thought that I would be. So if there's something else that has wizards and elves, slide in my DMs, let me know. Is it normal to try an open mic if someone only has 2 solid jokes? I think if you have any jokes that you want to try, it's normal to try an open mic, and you can sign up for a mic that has less minutes. So if you just want to do like a 3-minute mic, I'm sure you'd be able to find something like that and you could work out the 2 jokes. Okay, wait, this is an interesting question. You and your boyfriend are on a date where the server ignores you but not him. Should your boyfriend still leave a tip? Yeah, I think so. I think you have to leave a tip, right? I don't think you should go out and have a food experience even if the waiter is rude. I still think from like a karmic standpoint, you got to keep your side of the street clean. And so in doing that, you should, because you're assuming when you're going out to eat that you're going to be tipping no matter what. That's part of what going out to eat is. And you know that before you go out to eat. So I do think even if the waitress was rude to your girl, you still got to tip her. But that would be weird. That would be a weird vibe if the waiter barely looks at me but then only looks at my boyfriend. That would be weird. And like vice versa would be weird too if the male waiter is only looking at your girl and not you. Just social interactions in general are weird, especially post-COVID or in the COVID reality. You're like, I'm sorry, has everyone forgotten how to socialize? Because that's what it seems like. I don't know if you guys have tried to have a conversation recently, but people lack, and do I sound like an old bitch? Maybe, but people lack the basic social skills because we're all so fucked up from being locked inside the house for fucking 3 years, basically. So, yeah, people's social skills are off. People are unable to read social cues. People are rude. I think that for society to function again, we all need to get out of the house. Put down the iPads, put down the TikTok. Favorite soundtrack. Okay, so this is rough. I think actually my favorite soundtrack, hands down, would be the Almost Famous soundtrack. And this is why. I'm going to pull it up and we're going to hit some of, because you can say, okay, I'm going to proudly say this. Okay. Yeah, okay. The Almost Famous soundtrack would for sure be my choice because every song that's on here are songs that I'd like to listen to or do listen to, and they're classic iconic songs from the 60s. Let me read you some of the playlist and then you can see why this is the soundtrack I picked. Okay, the Oogum Boogum song by Brenton Wood, we love that. But the first song that the that Almost Famous opens with is the Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas song, which is so fun. And then they have Simon and Garfunkel America. They have The Who. They have The Stooges. They have Black Sabbath, Jethro Tull, Yes, The Beach Boys, Joni Mitchell, Stillwater, Black Sabbath, Rod Stewart, The Raspberries, The Seeds, the Allman Brothers Band, Leonard Skinner, Led Zeppelin, Neil Young, Fleetwood Mac, Neil Young, Deep Purple, Elton John, Steely Dan, The Velvet Underground, Cat Stevens, who I have a weird affinity for. Cat Stevens, Elton John, Stevie Wonder, Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin. And they have some of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs, including Tangerine and the Rain song. And they have one of my favorite Elton John songs that I feel like doesn't get enough love, and that's Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters. So I'm going Almost Famous is my favorite soundtrack for right now, because it's the only one that I feel like I kind of have a grasp on. I feel like it's just a fucking good movie, and I love the soundtrack. And then also I saw another movie recently called Licorice Pizza. It's the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, which I personally loved because it takes place in the Valley. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm from the Valley. I have a deep affinity for the Valley, that 818 connection, which is why I have the 818 tattoo on my wrist, that and Brody. But we're going to modify it. We're going to modify this tattoo a bit. Licorice Pizza soundtrack was, I only saw the movie once. I saw it in theaters, and I loved the soundtrack and I loved the movie. But I don't know it as well because it hasn't been around as long as Almost Famous, and I've only seen it once. But yeah, there's like a David Bowie song, there's a Donovan song, there's a Doors song, there's a Sonny and Cher song, there's a Nina Simone song. So yeah, if you haven't seen Licorice Pizza, highly recommend it. It's a great movie. The soundtrack's amazing. Wow. And you know what other soundtrack that I used to be into, which I hate to say it because saying this feels almost like a true confession. Garden State. This bitch, and when I say this bitch, I mean me. So into Garden State when it first came out. I thought I was an indie girl. I was like, yes, I know the Shins. Okay? I'm a quirky girl like Natalie Portman. I listen to the Shins. I'm sorry, is that Zach Braff? Sign me up. I used to love Garden State so much, which I feel like is kind of douchey now in hindsight. In the moment, I was transfixed. Nothing excited me more than watching Garden State over and over and over again. And now the thought of looking at Zach Braff's face for even more than 30 seconds makes me feel nauseous. So a lot has changed for me personally. I don't know. I wonder if Garden State would hold up. I haven't seen it in years, but I loved it so much so that my senior quote was from Garden State. I'll pull it up. Have I talked about this on a podcast before? Possibly, but you know. New Year, say me, honey. Garden State quotes. Okay, I think the quote that I pick is, if you don't laugh at yourself, hold on. If you don't laugh at yourself. I think it's a laugh related. Yeah. If you can't laugh at yourself, life's gonna seem a whole lot longer than you like. That was my quote. However, there are some days when laughing at myself, I guess I need to take myself less seriously. Not me revisiting my senior quote and thinking I need to take myself less seriously because of this Garden State quote. It's let's it's interesting that that was the quote that I chose and then now I'm a comic. It's like a nice reminder. Maybe I knew more when I was in high school. Sometimes I think that. Sometimes I think we know more when we're younger because we're less jaded and we're just more intuitive. Do you know what I mean? Like we're not as hardened from our world because we're still in a state of like being naive and open-minded and our eyes are still full of wonder. And then the older we get, the more weighed down we become. And I think it's important to get back to that childlike place. Is this making sense? Is this a did this podcast just get fucking serious? Um someone someone says Garden State represents a male whininess that the culture decided should once again be banned. Yeah, it is a heavy movie. Um, yeah, it's a heavy movie. It has 4.7 stars. Guys, this just turns into a Garden State podcast. I'm revisiting Zach Braff's work from what year did it even come out? Let's see. Garden State. I hope this is relatable to some people. Garden State came out in 2004. It was a romantic comedy. Yeah, that checks out. It came out in 2004. I graduated high school in 2005. So I was really touched by the film, to say the least. All right, let's check this out. Oh, let me tell you about the tattoo laser. That shit hurts like a bitch. It makes you rethink putting things on your body, but it also happens so fast. And you put on these like really cool sunglasses. Like, you look like you're going on a journey. You look like you're in the future, but yeah, you look like you're about to ride a rocket ship into the future with the glasses that they give you. They give you like these weird futuristic goggles slash glasses, and you put those on, and then they just zap your tattoo, and it hurts so bad, but by the time you process the pain, it's already done. At least for me, because my tattoo is small. I'm toying with the idea of putting a hummingbird over this, but then I was looking online, and there are some fucking ugly tattoos. Like, all you have to see is a few ugly hummingbird tattoos to be like, maybe not. Maybe I'll just laser it off and go with nothing. Because I don't know. Sometimes I think that tattoos look better on other people, and then once they're on me, it's like, ugh, this is who I am now. I have to really stand by this. And I'm someone who changes my mind often. Now that I know that the laser exists, I'm just trying to stay out of that laser office as much as possible because I don't want to be just putting art all over my body and then lasering it off. That could really occupy some time. You know what I'm realizing about tattoos? I'm starting to understand why people get so into them. It gives you something to fucking do. You know what I mean? It's like this tattoo right here. Now, all my focus is trying to figure out, how do I cover it? How do I make it prettier? I'm researching. I'm on Reddit. It's a lifestyle. Okay? People with tattoos, they constantly have to fucking redo things. Like people redoing their houses almost. Like, oh, sorry, I can't. I gotta redo the 8 on my tattoo. Sorry, I can't hang out. My floors are getting redone. It's like that. It's just this constant need for body modification. That was a deep sigh. It was a deep sigh because I feel like we covered a lot of ground. We covered shitting cum. We covered coming shit. We covered voodoo dolls. We covered, what else did we cover? Elf costumes, Prozac, soundtrack, $7 coffees downtown, middle names. Let's do without those, honey. Yoko Ono. Yoko. If you watch the Beatles documentary, Yoko shrieks the fucking entire time. And she's annoying. It's like, leave your woman at home. Hate to not sound like a feminist. Like, I'm all for equal voices. I'm all for women being in the workplace. However, Yoko, dead weight. When she's just, she shrieks the entire time in the Beatles documentary. It's like, can we get this bitch a pacifier, please? This is not a haunted house. Why are you shrieking? You know? It's a rough journey. She's just like shrieking like that. And they're like all singing beautifully, and then Yoko's just shrieking like a fucking dying witch. She's like literally John Lennon's shadow. She's standing over him, staring at him while he's in the studio, and then she shrieks. It's not a good look. I mean, no one, what I've learned from watching the Beatles doc is that no one wants to be anyone's Yoko. Yoko seems a little codependent in the documentary, if you ask me. Anyways, that's our episode, guys. New episodes every Monday. Thank you so much for continuing to support the show. New Year, same me. Yeah, subscribe. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave a review. It just takes 1 second, and that's how everyone finds out about the podcast. And also, yes, I've been podcasting in my pajamas. I don't know if I addressed that at the top of the podcast, but feels like I should have at some point addressed it. These are sloth pajamas. I got a matching sloth top and bottom and a sloth headband. I'm living my best fucking life. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to enjoy and support the show. Again, I will be in Humboldt January 14th and 15th with Lauren Brenner opening up for me. And she's so funny. She's a comic that used to be in LA. Now she's in Northern California. So it's going to be a stack lineup. It's going to be a fun night. You can see me do a longer set, which is always fun for me and fun for you. And see some of the new stuff I'm working on. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing and listening to a new episode of Shank. We'll see you next week. See you next Wednesday. Bye.